Welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm BJ Kubaroulis of the Connection Newspapers, alongside of Paul Frummelt of the Connection Newspapers. And for his first time on the Fairfax Sports Report, Connection employee John Marcario, who will be joining us for the remainder of this year. And you'll be seeing a lot of John out at a lot of the Northern Region games. Speaking of Northern Region winners, Chantilly and Edison went on to the state final this week in football. Both came out losers. We wish the best to the Chargers and the Eagles program. Last week, we had some Eagles on our show in Sean Lloyd and Ben Barber and Coach Vaughn Lewis from Edison. We're going to have more Edison on this show, but we're switching it up now. Out with the football and into the basketball. Edison girls basketball coach Diane Lewis is going to be joining us a little bit later in the show. And Oakton, another football powerhouse who won a state title last year, we're going to switch it up into basketball. We're going to get Jasmine Thomas, Oakton girls basketball player, on the phone with us to tell us all about this year, her career, and her decision to go to Duke University. Before we get to this action-packed Northern Region Hoops preview, we want to get a chance to thank the folks that make this show possible. And of course, we're talking about our underwriters. CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs, 703-978-0257. And Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models, 703-383-6299. Well, guys, out with the football, in with the basketball. We've been crunching the numbers for the last 2 weeks. We're into the first part of basketball right now. We've got a lot of teams to talk about today here on this Northern Region Hoops preview. We're going to talk about the girls first. We're going to get Jasmine Thomas on the phone to join us from Oakton, and then we're going to talk all about boys basketball in the Northern Region as well. But right now, we're joined by a special guest in Oakton girls superstar, Jasmine Thomas. Jasmine, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how are those boys doing right now?
They're doing good. We're up by 4, I think.
Okay, so Jasmine, right now, with the live report from the Oakton boys basketball game. But Jasmine, when it comes to basketball in Oakton, a lot of people, they think of, well, the girls program. Tell us a little bit about your decision, first of all, to go to Duke University. I know that's a program that's been chasing you for quite a while over there at Oakton. We're going to talk about your high school accomplishments, but tell us, why did you decide, out of all the schools that were chasing you, to go to Duke University?
I mean, Duke was the school that was there first, and people consider that my decision was late. So after all that time, I just felt the most comfortable with Duke. My parents liked Duke the best, just academically. It was the best school. And when I went down to visit, I just fell in love with it.
And you mentioned your parents and your coaches. Your parents have been a big part of your decision. Your dad, Johnny, a big fan of this show. I know he'll like that I threw that out there for him. But also Coach Fred Priester and Fairfax Stars coach Aggie McCormick have been a big part in helping you get to where you are. And speaking about Oakton coach Fred Priester, tell us a little bit about what you expect with Oakton coming up this season.
We're doing some new stuff just because we have a different team than we ever had. We're actually pretty short and quick, more than big, and like being able to have 3 guards. So we have to do 4 out and 1 in. So we're kind of doing some different things as far as keeping it up tempo now, because it's kind of hard to compete with teams that are bigger than us in the half court. So we're trying to get that momentum going for us.
Now, Jasmine, looking at this year compared to last year, it doesn't seem like you guys lost many players. Talk about the team this year.
Well, we only lost 3 seniors last year, and this year we have 6 returning seniors. But we also have some key sophomores, Sasha Borsini and Aaron McGartland, come in who get some quality minutes so far in our first 5 games.
You guys had a 25-1 finish last year, Jasmine, and I know the 47-40 loss to Madison in the semifinals. Boy, that one had to hurt. I know that Madison is a team that you guys have had a bit of a rivalry with, of course, being in Vienna and both programs being quite successful. What are the attainable goals for the Oakton Cougars this year?
I mean, so far we just want to stay focused on one thing at a time. Of course, it would be better if you're going to lose a game in the regular season rather than lose it when it can put you out. So first, we're going to just try to focus on the district and then go from there.
Jasmine, what's it like to be part of such a prestigious class coming out of the Northern Region? I mean, between you and Lauren Reinschittel and a couple others, I mean, you've kind of set the standard for women's basketball now. I mean, is that something that you feel pretty proud about?
Yeah, I'm real proud about it. And plus, I'm friends with all those girls. At one point, we all played on the same team. So it's good to see everybody get successful.
And of course, John's mentioning Lauren Ryan Shuttle and Laren Robinson over from South County, and Darina Campbell also over from Edison. You guys are the superstar class of Northern Region girls basketball players, and we're going to get a chance to see all you girls out on the hardwood this year. Jasmine, good luck to you this year. We'll be seeing you, a whole bunch of you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Guys,
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thanks, Jasmine.
All right.
Jasmine Thomas of Oakton High School. Jasmine has had a very, very successful career over at Oakton, has been an All-American every year. She was a preseason All-American coming out of middle school.
Wow.
Okay, so an 8th grader going into high school was a preseason All-American. That will tell you a little bit of something about her abilities. We have a graphic we want to get a chance to show you about Jasmine and what she's been able to do in her high school career at Oakton. She holds several records. Right now you can see her career total, and these numbers, looking at these numbers, these were the numbers coming into this season. So we haven't added anything from the 5-0 start that Oakton has onto these numbers, because it shows you just what she was able to do in her freshman, sophomore, and junior years, where she was named the Northern Region Player of the Year 3 times. 22.1 points a game in her career. She holds the boys and girls scoring record with 1,817 points. 8.1 rebounds a game, and you see the career totals there for assists, steals per game, and blocks per game. And she's had 40 double-doubles in her career. People might look at that triple-doubles number at only 3 and think, well, you know, what's going on? Well, Jasmine has had the ability to put her team up by so many points. She's often sitting on the bench in the 4th quarter. And you see the team record there. That speaks volumes. 74-8 in 3 years with Jasmine on that team, and they're now 79-8. Of course, it's a team effort over there at Oakton High School, and anyone who's with that program will tell you that. Another girl that I do want to get a chance to mention, she did mention an up-tempo sort of game over at Oakton. As we do jump into the preview here for the girls, we'll start with the Concord District, and we'll just piggyback right off what Jasmine said going in to Oakton. They have some quick guards there, and they're gonna run an up-tempo game. Ashley Abed, who's committed to play at Francis Marion University, signed her letter of intent as well. So they've got some guards that can really hit some outside shots. It's not just a one-man show there, and I think she's got some support that she may have not had in the past. Before we jump too deep into the Concord District, let's get a chance to look at the current standings. We're giving you the preview now. These are up to date as of Tuesday.
Now you'll notice.
Go ahead, Paul.
You'll notice no district games yet. Oakton is 5-0 right now. We just talked to Jasmine. Centerville 4-1. Westfield also 4-1. Chantilly 3-1. Robinson 2-0. Fairfax 1-2. And Herndon 1-2. Again, you'll notice no district play yet.
So district play is right on the horizon, John. You've gotten a chance to look through some of these teams and see some of these guys. We're going to start with Robinson right there at 2-0. They're a team that, you've got a chance to talk with some of the coaching staff over at Robinson, and the girls at Robinson do have some talent. Tell us a little bit about what you found about the Robinson girls program.
Robinson's going to be able to push the ball a lot. They have nice size up front. When they want to take the ball to the hole, they'll take it to the hole. It's just the team sometimes takes a half to figure out they're bigger than the other team, they can take it to the rack. One of the problems they've had early on is their free throw shooting, which could come more of a problem towards the end of the year.
And TJ Dade, the coach over at Robinson, a longtime police officer, so there's some discipline in that program, Paul. Speaking of discipline, Centerville has got some discipline, and right now they're at 4-1. Tell us a little bit about the girls program.
It's a little surprising. They did finish 11-13 last year. They got a first-year head coach, Wally Horton, coming over from Chantilly, and he's definitely improving this team. You can see, obviously, a 4-1 record. They did lose to Madison, which you mentioned. They're led by Renee Watson, who's a great player for them, and they look to continue to improve all throughout the season.
And speaking of first-year head coaches, Herndon's got a first-year head coach, Dwight Trimmer, who won 2 state championships with Robinson when he was over there. He's coached 16 years in the Northern Region. He was most recently with Herndon, has left to take a private school coaching job, and Reggie Barnes, a longtime assistant, took over the job at Herndon High School. They just got done playing Notre Dame Academy. Any of you folks that follow the USA Today rankings and the Sports Illustrated rankings will note that Notre Dame Academy is ranked in the country. What is Herndon doing playing that team out in Middleburg? They just want to get some experience, Coach Barnes told me, and he said, I'll play anybody at any time. Paul, speaking of playing anybody, anytime, Westfield's coach has done that quite a bit in his prestigious career. Tell us a little bit about what Westfield is going to be up to this year.
Well, the key is Coach Pat Deegan from Westfield, a very long, prestigious career coaching girls basketball, and it doesn't seem like he needs that star player. He needs that Jasmine Thomas. He can put a team together with role players and make it work. Obviously, you see they're 4-1 right now. Traveled up with the Westfield boys to New York City to play 2 teams there. So they're off to a really good start, and we'll see some good things out of Westfield this year.
Speaking of some pretty good starts, Chantilly girls are off to a pretty good start as well. They're off to a 3-1 start this year, Paul. What has Chantilly been able to do to get such a hot start?
Well, the key is last year they started 10-2. And then the injuries started.
Right.
They lose their 2 big girls down low. Their guards start getting hurt, and they end up finishing 12-11. Very disappointing season for them. Didn't lose much. They're coming back all healthy, and obviously they're going to make a big run against Oakton and Jasmine Thomas in the Concord District.
And I'm sure the Cougars will have something to say about that.
There'll be some good games, I'll tell you that much.
If you want to read all about these previews, obviously you can see that we've been doing our homework and research, and we've put this all down on our website for you and in our previews in the Connection newspapers. This is the Connection newspapers preview. This was the cover story that went on all Connection newspapers this past week. You can go and read those previews for every single district, every single team, boys and girls, save a few teams we don't necessarily get to, but www.connectionnewspapers.com, and you see girl power there. Those 4 girls we just got a chance to talk with Jasmine about. That is the class right now of this region, and we were talking in the office, guys. We think girls basketball at this point might have a stronger year than some of the boys teams out there.
You see those girls teams that are going to make a run at states. You see more girls teams than you see boys teams, and it's going to be a great year for girls hoops.
And if you stick with us, we're going to have a chance to talk with Edison girls basketball coach Diane Lewis. Speaking of teams that have a shot to do something spectacular, Edison coach Diane Lewis will join us to tell us all about their number 6th ranking in USA Today. It's nationwide, guys. Top 25 team. All right, let's move on to the Liberty District. I want to show you the current standings of the Liberty District girls right now. Madison on top with a 2-1 start. Langley has also tied that start, as well as Stonebridge, 2-1 start. Paul, you did get a chance to mention no district games yet. Marshall at a 2-0 start, I believe, and 1-2 start for Jefferson. McLean 1-2, Woodson 1-2. Southlake still struggling there at an 0-3 start. They won 3 games all of last year. We'll get a chance to tell you what the Seahawks will be up to this year. But let's start off with Madison, as we see right up at the top of the Liberty District standings. Not surprising at all to see the Warhawks up there at the top of the Liberty District. Denise Weinig, formerly known as Denise Wojcik, for those of you that are thinking maybe they got a new coach. She just got married, folks, so no panic yet. 103-30 in her 6 seasons as the Warhawks head coach. They lost Christy Cushney to Holy Cross. She's playing Division I basketball right now, but they did return 6'2" forward Mary Grace Jay. Now, Jay was in a car accident this past summer and had some health issues getting back onto the floor. They're working her into the lineup, but they are off to a 2-1 start as she's getting worked back in. 60-44 over Flint Hill. They lost a nail biter, 36-34 to Robinson, and also they beat Centerville. So that 2-1 start, a pretty good one for a hurt Madison team that has some other pieces they can put in there.
Beating an undefeated so far Centerville, so definitely a good win for them.
And at Centerville, their first loss of the season, so pretty spectacular for that program. We're going to get a chance to talk about Stonebridge in just a minute. That's kind of that mystery team, Paul. Want to get into a team that has not been a mystery, though, in the northern region for quite some time. Langley. Now, last year was a difficult time for Langley. The girls posted an 8-14 record. 123-76 has been their record. And in 8 seasons, that's the record that Coach Cheryl Buffo posted with the Saxons. She earned 7 regional tournament berths out of her 8 seasons there. And after last season's finish, 8-14, a little turmoil over there at Langley. People started questioning a little bit. You have a losing season. Memories are a bit short. They're ready to come back and prove to this region that they're ready to get back into the regional tournament. They return a pair of post players in Allison Flaherty, 11 points a game and 7.4 rebounds last year, and Chandler Cochran, 5.1 points, 3.1 rebounds. Paul, tell us all about Marianne Bell and those Stonebridge Bulldogs.
Well, you mentioned a struggling season. Last year, the first year that Stonebridge moved up to AAA, all sports across the program moved up. But you saw the Stonebridge girls kind of had a tough time kind of getting into the AAA district. Obviously, Marianne Bell is a dominant post player in only her junior year, and you'll see that again this year. They're still dealing with, they have 2 key injuries right now, looking to get those 2 players back in January. When they're fully healthy, they can make a run.
Stay tuned for John's report on Woodson. I'm going to give you a little insight for the Marshall program. The Marshall girls program don't know anything about losing, okay? In the last 3 years, that's not normal for them, okay? Because before the last 3 years, in which they've posted at least 16 wins apiece in those seasons, they've posted a 56-21 record in the last 3 seasons under Coach Noelle Klippenstein, who I believe is one of the best coaches in the region to be able to do what she does with the talent she gets over at Marshall. They've got some returning talent this year in point guard Nicole Harrison. She's going to take over the reins from Amanda Brown, who was the all-time career scorer for Marshall High School, graduated this past year. KT Message, 7 points a game last year. And Maya Al-Shangeti, who signed a Division I scholarship recently, she's going to be in the post with Message, kind of a powerful 1-2 punch. Maya also had 7.5 points a game last year and 2.5 blocks. John, tell us all about those Woodson Girl Cavaliers.
Well, Pat Neary, he's kind of got a team that could be a tweener this year. I mean, they have some size. They're led by Kathy Cochran, who had 17 last year. They've got a center who's shown good promise this year, Sarah, and I apologize if this can be mispronounced, Scoff. I mean, she can run the floor. She has nice touch around the basket. She could be a difference maker in some of these games where she's a good solid inch or two taller than some of the other players. Chelsea Akate, she's also a senior, averaged 7 last year, coming back. It's a team that has a lot of seniors, a lot of mix of younger players as well, but some of the upperclassmen, if they could step up, they could be, as you mentioned before, a dark horse.
Speaking of a dark horse, South Lakes girls are a bit of a dark horse. I mean, this team has struggled, guys, okay? They posted an 0-21 season 2 years ago, correct. You don't have to turn that up. 0-21, okay? So now this last year, Christy Winter-Scott took over the program, a former player who won a state title with South Lakes in '86. She helped that team to a 29-0 finish. Just recently inducted into the Maryland Hall of Fame. Coach Winter-Scott helped that program rebound with a 3-win season. They were just on the brink, guys. They barely missed on winning maybe 3 or 4 more games last year. So they could have gone and had a 7-win season. They did get 3 wins, as you do see some of those programs rebounding. Kelson Manners is going to be the difference maker on that team. She was a freshman last year, averaged about 12 a game as a freshman in the Liberty District. Not easy to do. You'll see her have a strong season again this year, and they're definitely helping to rebuild that program. I want to finish off the Liberty District with McLean. Ashley Cole's coming back. She is they're not really sure because of the record books at McLean, but most likely the highest scoring girls basketball player ever to come through McLean. Has most likely the career record. Nowhere really to check that, but that's what it's believed to be. Ashley Cole is going to be distributing a little more this year. She said she's really into team ball, not something that she was necessarily keen on last year. Told me it was all about the stat sheet last year. Was very honest and has learned really how to play team ball, and I think that's going to help McLean be a lot better. Also, Jess Stillman, a 3-point threat when she is healthy, could help the McLean girls basketball team. In just a minute here, we're going to have Edison girls basketball coach Diane Lewis join us to talk all about her team in the National District and the Northern Region. She's going to give us an insight as to what it's like to be a nationally ranked team, not something that this area often sees for its basketball programs. At about the halfway mark right here, guys, of the Northern Region girls basketball preview, we're going to get the National and Patriot District out there. In those 2 districts that we did preview, who do you think might be a sleeper? John, you mentioned one dark horse.
Woodson could be, but that Robinson team is better than people think they are. I mean, they've got the talent. If the players take, I don't mean to be repetitive, but if the players take it to the hole, they will beat their defender off the ball and get the easy basket or make the free throws.
Without a doubt for me, it's Chantilly. They started off so extremely hot at 10-2. If they stay healthy, I like them to challenge Oakton.
Wow, so you're really setting up that Oakton Chantilly game. I think the Chantilly coach is really going to really appreciate that. In a minute, folks, we're going to get Edison coach Diane Lewis on the phone and want to get a chance to pick her brain about Darina Campbell, a girl we got a chance to mention already. 7 guys, count them, 7 hot recruits coming out of the program. You can only start 5. So you do the math on who's going to be in the state final this year. But before we do that, let's throw up the National District standings right now and get a chance to show you who's done what so far in the National District girls-wise. Of course, as we've mentioned, Paul, no district games have been played yet.
You got Edison going at 6-0, Falls Church 3-2, Wakefield 2-2, Yorktown 2-2, Mount Vernon 1-3, Stewart 0-1, and Washington Lee unfortunately 0-7.
So you see the national district standings there, and you see that Edison is on top at 6-0, Falls Church right behind at 3-2. Once some of these games get started in the district, you'll see some of these teams start to pull apart from each other. A team that's already pulled apart from their district and from the region is the Edison Eagles, a team that we've mentioned is ranked nationally. We're joined now by Coach Diane Lewis. Coach, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Coach Diane Lewis joining us from Edison Girls Basketball. Coach, thanks for coming on with us. Want to get basically right into it. You guys are at 6-0 right now. I want to get a chance to ask you about the national ranking. We'll get to that, but let's first start off with some of the pieces that you do have coming back for your team. And most of us are familiar with Darina Campbell, who helped you guys in the state final last year, but there are some other pieces on that team as well.
Right. We all of our starters are back. We have Adria Crawford and Monica Brackens in the post. We have Tia Spalding and Shawnee Lewis as our guards.
And quite the stacked team. I know, Coach, that it's been reported that there's about 7 players that could potentially go to the next level of the game, and you can only start 5. How tough is that as a coach?
It actually is quite tough. The other 2, Chastity Clayton, she's a transfer student from O'Connell, and Maisha Goodman, who's a freshman, who does not play like a freshman. But they both are new to the team, still learning the system, and so I would say that our starters still have an advantage at that point.
For those who haven't seen Edison play, a lot of their games, they're up by 20, 30 points at the half. They're just destroying teams. Coach, over the last 2+ seasons, you've had a 48-1 overall regular season record. How do you sustain such great success over such a long period of time, such a tough district?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. You know, we've got Darina, who is certainly one of the most prolific shooters you can find. She's definitely a scorer. But we have, I think, the other parts to the puzzle, and everybody's playing their role and playing their role well, and it's just working for us right now.
Now, Coach, obviously the hype machine has already started for your Eagles. Do you feel that could be a dangerous thing, or you think it's good to get these girls pumped up and get them confident?
Sorry.
That's all right, Coach. Just to reiterate, I said the hype machine is already starting. Do you feel that that's going to add to their confidence, it's going to help their gameplay, or you think that might be dangerous?
Actually, it's a double-edged sword in that it could be both ways. It's definitely a good thing to have that on our side, but, it's a part, and I keep talking to the girls about this, of staying focused. And so we're trying to make sure every day at practice we discuss mental focus and just trying to stay focused and knowing what we want to do and seeing the big picture and not getting caught up in all of that.
Coach, I got a chance to talk to you today, and you mentioned your website, and I want to get a chance to say that over the air because there's something important I want people to go and look at on that website. We were looking at it all day today.
You were looking at it
4 to 5 times.
Okay, www.edisongirlsbasketball.com, and if you go to the photo gallery, there's a media clips tag that you can click on, and there's a video up there from the state semifinals against Princess Anne last year, and you see Darina draining threes from 5 or 6 feet behind the three-point line, Coach. But you did mention there are some other intangibles to her game that don't show up on the stat sheet.
Oh, absolutely. Her basketball IQ is just above most kids, and so she knows what her role is in scoring. But that's not just it. She plays full court. She's on both ends of the court, and so she leads our team in steals. She's got a long wingspan, and she takes advantage of that by getting into the passing lane. But she leads by example. She's the leader on our team, and she's not the most vocal person, but she definitely leads by example.
Now, for those who don't know Darina, if you want to compare a little bit numbers to Jasmine Thomas, she has a career overall record of 74-7 at Edison. That's unbelievable. Coach, when I've spoken to you this season, you mentioned your team's trying to have fun. How do you have... Let's have fun with the phone. How do you have have fun when you have just such high expectations going into every single game. Your team is expected to win and win big.
You know, I think the fun comes because I have a group of girls who just love the game, and so you know we get excited about every game, and you know we're not going to take any game lightly. It could be anybody's ball game on any given day, and I think our girls understand that. We've had 6 games, and 3 of those games have been games where teams have come out on us and come out on us hard. So, you know, we know that, you know, nothing's going to be given to us. We got to work for it.
Coach, I got to ask you the last question here. Super 25, USA Today has you ranked at number 6. Does that put the crosshairs on your back a little bit? As you mentioned, teams have come out quite hard against you guys.
It does. And, you know, teenagers are going to be teenagers, and, of course, you know, they can get caught up in that. And so, you know, we get a little relaxed. And so, you know, my job as a coach is to make sure that they understand that that's a ranking that was given to us, and we're honored about it, but it could be taken away quite easily. Mm-hmm. So we've got to continue to work for everything we get.
Well, Coach, speaking of work, we're going to let you get back to work, and we're going to do a little more work here on our Northern Region basketball preview as we're going to dial it up a notch. Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. We'll be seeing you out on the hardwood this year, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you for quite a bit during the postseason.
Great. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, let's get a chance to dial it back here a minute here. on the
keep it
Sports
coming,
Report.
keep it coming.
Okay, obviously a very, very talented team.
Mm-hmm.
John, you've gotten a chance to do some research on the Edison girls team. Obviously, with the 48-1 record you did mention, that's pretty impressive.
They're so much quicker than other teams. They'll do full court all game long, and they'll just wear them out. One of the problems that they will have, though, they don't have much size, so they can be out-rebounded. So, as Coach Diane Lewis mentioned, if they do have an off night shooting and they don't get the boards, a team could give them a run for their money, but one regular season loss in 2+ years, you do not have those nights very often.
And we want to mention a couple of other teams over there from that national district. Devon Drayton, coach of the Wakefield Warriors, returns after a 12-13 season. They've got a couple key players. Center Brittany Neely is a senior to look out for, and Brittany Garner as well. If you look over at Chummy Gill's team over there for the Patriots, you'll see that guard Leah Core, a senior, is certainly one to look out for. So watch out for a couple teams there in that national district. Guys, let's move on to the Patriot District. That's a very exciting district. I want to show you the standings currently there in the Patriot. Lee right up at the top, and T.C. Williams right behind Paul there at 2-1.
You see TC 2-1. Again, we've mentioned no district games yet, so you can't really. It's not really a great barometer of where teams are going to end up. West Springfield at 2-2. Annandale 1-2, Lake Braddock at 1-2, South County 1-2, West Potomac 0-2, and Hayfield 0-3. Again, we've mentioned no district games yet, so this is going to shake up, but you know that's the standings as we have them right now.
Well, we're only going to talk about 3 teams in the Patriot
Okay.
District. As we are crunched for time here, we want to get a chance to talk about the boys preview as well. So let's talk about the heavy hitters there for the girls in the Patriot District. Of course, we're going to talk about T.C. Williams, a name to mention over there. Tierra Ruffin Pratt. The T.C. Titans are 2-1. She already dropped 45 in one game this year. Tierra is only a sophomore.
Wow.
So she is the future of the Northern Region. You see the class of girls in Ryan Shuttle and Thomas and Campbell and Robinson. You see that class will move on after this year. Tierra Ruffin Pratt is the future of the Northern Region. And any one of those girls and more, and coaches and others, will tell you that Tierra Ruffin Pratt plays. You can tell she's played with the boys growing up, and she can definitely ball. Let's talk about West Springfield, John. Coach Billy Gibson over there. Seems like he's been around since they created basketball over at West Springfield. Tell us a little bit about the Spartans and what they have to offer this year.
Spartans are very confident this year. They're trying to get back to past glory, as they once said. From 1997 to 2004, Spartans won 4 regional championships. They have a nice mix this year, a lot of returning players coming back. They're going to be led by Triana Harris, Kiki Williams, Caroline Nicholson, and Amy Grooms. They want to get the respect. They lost a tough game early on to Edison. They lost another game. They had 2 losses this year, so to speak. So, I mean, they're going to take some work to get it done, but You want to get the respect, you have to do it on the court.
Speaking of respect, South County, only a second-year school. Now, they're only off to a 1-2 start now, but that is out of district, and I know they've played some competitors. They're a team that returns a lot of talent, and in particular, the two girls we've mentioned already. John, take it away on the South County Stallions. Who are those girls, and what can they do?
South County, they're actually 2-2 this year. They had an odd loss a little bit earlier in the week against Mount Vernon. They might have been a little bit looking ahead. They play Edison on Friday night. And just to sidestep for a minute, if you're looking for good basketball, Edison, South County, Friday night will be one to watch. You could have 10 Division I scholarship players on the court at any one time. Be at Edison that night. It will just be one to watch. But South County, again, I mean, they have Ryan Shuttle, they have Robinson, they have Brittany Carlock. Those three will average about 75 to 80% of the team's entire scoring. Their first five can compete with anybody. Their head coach, Jason Grubb, said their first five can compete with Edison's first five, but the difference is their bench is not very deep. If you get to that bench, they could struggle, but that first five, look out if they're not in foul trouble.
Well, if you want to read all about Northern Region basketball, you could log on to theconnectionnewspapers.com and read our in-depth previews. We've only given you a snippet, really, from each team, but each of us has done an in-depth preview on these teams. Let's show you right now what we think, after doing the research, will be our Elite Eight. In football, we do the top 10. Here you see the Elite Eight is what we'll be doing for basketball all year. If you follow the Connection newspapers and the Fairfax Sports Report, you'll get a dose of this every week. Of course, Edison unanimous with 32 votes. They were in first place again previously last week when we did this poll. Oakton right there behind the Eagles with 26 points. They were ranked third last week, and Tara Ruff and Pratt with the Titans right behind the Cougars with 20 points. And there's South County at the 4 spot, Centerville, Westfield, Marshall, and West Springfield tying at the bottom there with 7 votes each for the 7th spot on our Elite Eight. We're going to move into the boys now, so we're going to get a chance to show you the boys Elite Eight. I know a lot of you Northern Region fans have been wondering why we're talking about all these girls. We're going to talk about boys now, and so tune in and look for those Herndon Hornets in the state final last year. Number 1 team ranked in the region still, even without Scotty Reynolds. We'll get a chance to talk a little bit about what the impact will be there. 27 votes for the Hornets. South Lakes with 26 votes. T.C. Williams is a team that a lot of people think is going to really have something to say about the region this year, possibly the state. 18 points. Westfield, Woodson, Centerville, Lake Braddock, and a tie at the bottom there between Stonebridge and West Springfield at the 8th spot with 5 votes each. All right, let's move into the boys preview, guys. We're going to get a chance. We're going to start off like we usually do with the Concord District. Let's jump right into the Concord District standings. I want to show the folks at home where these teams have gotten off to their fresh starts.
You can see Centerville, surprising 3-2 record on top of the district thus far without any district games played. See Herndon at 2-0, undefeated right now. Robinson at 2-1. Westfield at 2-2. Like I mentioned, traveled to New York, played some teams up there. Chantilly at 1-1 right now. Oakton at 1-4, and Fairfax, unfortunately, still looking for that first win.
Well, speaking of a team that will not be looking for very many wins because they will just come naturally to the Herndon Hornets this year. Coach Gary Hall in his 18th season won his first Northern Region title last year. Of course, a lot of people think that had a lot to do with having Scotty Reynolds, the first McDonald's All-American here in this public school region since 1993. Of course, the last was Joey Beard from South Lakes. I mentioned those two programs in the same breath because John wants you to go see Edison South County on Friday. I want you to go see Herndon South Lakes. Herndon will be at South Lakes. Coach Gary Hall, 18 seasons, a former assistant under Wendell Bird from South Lakes. Wendell Bird will be retiring this year. We're going to get a chance to tell you about Wendell Bird when we get to our Liberty District previews. But Herndon returns Danny Jones, a 6'6", 215-pound post player that is now starting to be moved out a little bit into the small forward spot. So you'll see Danny taking the outside shot a little more. The X factor on that team is Richard Gore, a guy that has just really impressed a lot of people. He's been in the weight room all year. And Matt Seeger, of course, a hard-nosed football player. And, of course, there's C.J. Glenn, who's going to be taking over the reins for Scotty at the point guard position. More of a balanced attack this year without Reynolds in there. Reynolds, of course, helped them to the state final last year. Paul, let's talk a little bit about Centerville. They're a team that's gotten off to a pretty fresh start. Yeah, definitely. Centerville, as you can see, they beat Washington Lee, had a tough loss against Brentville, then beat Marsh West Potomac. Big problem last night is playing Madison, and
and no other way to say it, they got blown out.
Right.
They allowed Madison to score 90 points on them. They scored 42. It was just a tough night, and it's not indicative of what they're going to be, how they're going to play throughout the year. Coach Brian Dole was obviously upset and gave his team, a talking to, so to speak. Talked to Quantrell Simmons afterwards. He dropped 17 points. He's definitely the big man for Centerville. The loss to Madison is a step back, but like I said, it's not indicative of how they're going to play all year.
All right, we're not going to make you go back-to-back teams here, so we're going to throw John into the fire here with Robinson. John, tell us a little bit about the Robinson Ram boys. Are they going to be able to contend this year a little bit better than they were able to last year?
Robinson could be a sleeper this year. They have had not much success for the last couple years, but this could be the year they finally break through and do something. Head coach Matt McCaig has a team that has some nice seniors. Ryan McPherson will lead that team most games. He kind of had to accept the big burden last year of scoring all of their points. Not the case this year. Mike Daniel, another senior, is going to give him tenacious defense. He has a little shoulder problem that he had during football season. It may or may not affect him depending on how he does it each game. They will shoot a lot of threes. If they are on, look out. If they are not on, it could be a little tough for him.
So Robinson, I mean, as you mentioned, you live and die with the three-pointer, John. You got to watch out for that. And you mentioned they got some football players to help out that team. Speaking of a team that definitely needed some help from their football players but couldn't get help until this past weekend was over, Paul. How about them Chantilly Chargers?
You mentioned that, Chantilly had 5 football players missing from their team since basketball season stuff. They just got them back for the game this Tuesday where they beat Jefferson 68-40. Now the big thing, the non-football player, their big boy is Ben Wheeler. He dropped 25 points yesterday, and you're seeing number 2 for him would be Nate Warwick. We all know Nate Warwick.
Who?
We've had him on this show, the quarterback of the Chantilly Chargers. And oh yeah, the other quarterback of the Chantilly Chargers, Austin Decker.
Who?
Exactly. We've had him on the show too.
Right.
They're both the 2 big forwards for Chantilly. And we also have some of you might have heard of Zach Halley.
No, I haven't heard of him.
The big lineman for the Chantilly football team. So it's like you're taking, the stars of the football team,
Right.
putting them on the basketball team with big old Ben Wheeler. You're gonna have a pretty good team. So watch out for Chantilly.
Is Coach Mike Lally coaching by any chance?
He'll probably be on the sidelines yelling.
And they didn't happen to go 0-10 like 2 years ago, did they?
No,
I'm sick of that.
But yeah, so definitely when those Chargers get in basketball mode, watch out for them.
Ben Wheeler is a guy that I've heard a lot of coaches chattering about. He's kind of a lot of people's preseason, if you will, all-region pick. So this guy is a player over there at Chantilly. Speaking of players, though, Paul, I got to question what they're doing over at Westfield a little bit. We've talked a little bit about this in the office, and I'm a big fan of Coach Doug Ewell. But moving Maurice Hubbard from the post out to the wing, is that going to affect the Bulldogs at all?
Well, what you're going to see is him trading back and forth.
Okay.
Maurice Hubbard, a big guy, definitely at the high school level, can dominate in the post, but he has some college aspirations.
Right.
He's definitely a player that can make it to the next level. Unfortunately, we don't know if he's big enough
Right.
to make it to the next level at the post.
About 6'6"?
Yeah, so they're moving him out to the wing and seeing what he can do there. Obviously, I mean, he's still having a pretty good season. To drop 20 points in a loss to South Lakes. So he's definitely there. He is the leader on the court, and we'll see how this transition works. I'm guessing with his basketball knowledge, he'll be fine.
And speaking of that, you mentioned a guy that you're moving from the post to the perimeter, but going in and out to help those college aspirations. Yeah. Also, that's going to be done with Danny Jones over at Herndon, so you have to watch the progression there as well. Those are guys that are called classic tweeners. Don't really know where to put them or what they're able to do at each position, so you let them see what they can do at any given position, and the recruiters certainly like that as well. Westfield will be a force. Of course, they are ranked in our Elite Eight, as is Herndon right there at the top. You mentioned the team in South Lakes. We're going to get to South Lakes in just a minute, have a whole bunch to say about the Seahawks, but I do want to mention before we move out of the Concord District that Oakton has a first-year coach in Dave Spanbauer, the winningest coach in 2 girls basketball programs at the collegiate level. So Spanbauer shifting it up a little bit. His major quote to me was, "We're trying to get out of this funk," and that tells you what Oakton's been in the last couple of years. Chris Dukes recently, left after last season, let's put it that way, is over at Chantilly helping with that program and also teaching. Let's move on to the Liberty District, guys. Liberty District, when you think about football, it's all about the Concord District. Well, the script flips a little bit when it comes to basketball. The Liberty District has started play Madison, John, as you see, they're at 3-1 right up at the top.
South Lakes is second. They're 2-0. Marshall's third at 2-2. McLean follows Marshall. They're 2-2 as well. Then comes Stonebridge 1-1, Woodson 1-1, Jefferson 0-3, and Langley 0-4. And again, no district games played as of yet.
No district games, but we're going to get to some district games pretty soon here. We're on the horizon. When we do come back from break, we'll have a whole bunch for you folks. Let's talk about this Liberty District. You see Madison right there at 3-1. Coach Chris Kublank, I'm calling you out right now. Coach Chris Kublank, calling all Kublanks. I want to let everybody know that Coach Kublank is trying to hide his Madison Warhawks talented squad. And with that 3-1 record and me up here on this pulpit chirping about how good they are, the cat is out of the bag, Chris. I know I'll be getting a phone call from you tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about those Warhawks guys, though, seriously. I saw them against Oakton in that rivalry game. They lost. Let me tell you what they lost last year. Okay, the Big Three took them into the regional tournament where they were upended by Marshall, their rival, Marshall, a team of destiny. But their Big Three, 15.3 points a game for Elon destined. John Ogolo last year, gone. Warren Edney, the Liberty District Player of the Year, offensively and defensively, 15.2 points a game. And 6'9" post player Brandon Altman, 11 points a game, 8 rebounds, all three playing at the collegiate level. When you lose something like that after a 23-win season, that's a record at Madison for wins, and that's a storied program, what do you do? Well, Coach Kublank is relying on guard play. Rich Conlon has had an incredible start to this season. Omi Ogolo, the little brother of John Ogolo, is a sophomore. This is a guy that can create, and he's going to be one of the good ones to come out of Madison. Before we get off of Madison, I want to get a chance to talk about Robert Schenk. Underrated player, played with a mask on his face, the Rip Hamilton style, all of last year. He's maskless, and he's doing it up over there for the Warhawks. Really impressed by what he's able to do. He's the kind of guy that controls the game.
I was definitely impressed when I saw them play Centerville yesterday. Coach said, I'm not to sound cocky, but our defense is incredible. It's their bread and butter. That's exactly what he said.
Such a Kublank quote.
I don't want to sound cocky, but and they were incredible. I watched them, something like 12 steals in the first half, 17 steals over, and they're balanced with 4 players in double figures in points and 3 other players just a bucket away from getting into double figures. They're a well-balanced team, and they should scare some people.
John, I want to throw you into the fire here. You got to give me the scouting report on the Cavaliers. Of course, we're talking about the Woodson basketball team, which is a team that you say has been making a lot of noise so far this year around the region. There's some chatter about Woodson.
Woodson can be good this year. Zach Wilmot was out of their game against Lake Braddock this week. He has a sprained AC joint. He could be back sometime the next couple days. His backcourt mate, Steve Silverthorne, dominates games with his passes. John McAdams can get big buckets down low. They have a freshman, Max Lennox, makes some dazzling plays, and he will be a spectacular player soon. Woodson, very quick, but they can go through some funks where they don't score many points, and that could kill them in certain games this year.
All right, guys. For those of you who are big Northern Region basketball fans, you will know who Wendell Bird is. For those of you who don't know, he's been around for 22 years as a head coach, 32 total as a teacher, as an assistant coach and all that, but 22 years as the head coach of the most storied basketball program in the Northern Region. 6 region titles. They've been to the state final twice. Wendell Bird has posted a 426 and 145 career record. Take that in for a second. 426 and 145, 6 region titles. Coached Grant Hill, Joey Beard, Michael Jackson. The list goes on and on. Not that Michael Jackson. The list goes on and on, folks. Wendell Bird's in his final season, and for those of you who respect the Northern Region basketball program's history, you will be at South Lakes to see him coach against his rival, Herndon, for the final time in his career. South Lakes is off to a great start. They got a transfer in A.J. Price from Flint Hill. He was what's the equivalent to us in a public school. He was an all-district selection over there last year. Monty Smith is a guy that's been lighting up the stat sheet. 21 points last night against Westfield. South Lakes did defeat Westfield last night. Of course, Lauren crying over there behind camera as her Bulldogs didn't get a chance to pull off the victory. Curtis Keys, 12 points. A.J. Price, as I did mention, 11 points. They played George Mason. Come on, I know. George Mason's single-A program on Monday, and Price had 5 blocks in that game. They turn around and play Westfield the next night. Before we get out of the Liberty District, we've got a lot of more boys to talk about, so I want to throw this out there for you folks. If you haven't had very much faith in McLean lately in any sport, this is the sport to go see McLean play. The boys basketball program has 2 juniors. Tarek Amori, who everybody knows, he will finish as that school's all-time leading scorer by the time he's a senior. Kid's averaging 20 points a game right now. In fact, 21.8 points a game right now. And he tied his career high with 27 points in a 59-51 win over Oakton last night. He's got some help this year in Justin DeVarney, 10 points a game and 3.3 assists. Justin came over from Georgetown Prep, so it's good to see the new transfer kind of working his way in. Before we get out of the Liberty, how will Marshall rebound? That's something we want to keep an eye on. The dream is over there at Marshall. All right, folks, let's get into this interesting Patriot District. Let's show you what these Patriot District teams have been able to do so far, John.
Lake Braddock, 4-0 start. West Springfield, 3-0. South County, 2-1. TC Williams off to a 1-1 start. Hayfield, 1-2. West Potomac, 1-2. Lee, 0-1. And Annandale, 0-3.
So the football success does not travel to the basketball successes. Annandale is down at the bottom. Okay, John Marcario, we're putting you on the spot. You got a chance to see Braddock last night in quite the thriller over what can be considered a rival for them in Woodson.
They beat Woodson last night 57-55. If you talk to head coach Brian Meachus, he'll say, we're young. They've got 6 of their 12 players are underclassmen. We're still learning. Don't buy it. This Lake Braddock team is legit. They are off to a 4-0 start. They have size. Greg Delaney took over that Woodson game and scored 8 of his 13 points in the fourth quarter. They will wear you down with their press. They are you look at Lake Braddock and you say, we can take them. Much more deceptive. They will outplay you. Come second half, they make the plays when they need to be made.
Coach Brian Meachus, of course, seems like he's been in this region for ages, and he knows how to work reporters when we talk about our previews. Doesn't want to tip his hand too much. But, John, you saw firsthand Braddock is a contender. Another team you think might be a contender is West Springfield. You've had a little bit to say in the office about West Springfield. What can the boys do this year?
West Springfield, Coach Dick Wickline, he's trying to get his team to play up to their potential. He has been he feels his team could have some things to improve on after his first 3 games, which is not bad because they're off to a 3-0 start.
Right.
I mean, they have some talent. Kevin Kilday, he had 25 against McLean earlier this week in an overtime win. He's going to lead them in scoring for most games if he can. Brandon Allen, Tony Hall down low. I mean, they'll out-rebound you. They'll be quicker than they are. Their coach thinks they can do pretty well. They have the talent. They have the size. It's one of those things where can A and B match up? If they can, West Springfield can definitely make some big-time noise this year.
And the overtime victory over McLean was one that even their coach wasn't very happy about, but they still, even if you play bad and you still win in overtime, it says a lot about a program being able to still succeed when not having the best night. Let's talk a little bit about them Stallion boys, John. South County is a team that on the girls' side we know that they have some success coming, but what about the boys?
South County started out rough. Last year is their first year, 3-19. Talking to players this year, though, they said a lot, we believe in the team. This is going to be a team game. Last year, a lot of them played more on one-on-one individual stuff. They felt that, hey, we're new, we all don't know each other. It's on me to get it done. Not the case this year. Matt Vane, Stephen Ware, and Carlos Morgan, they want to make a statement this year that South County, we're not a 3-19 team. We are much better than we think. Head coach Matt Plograff thinks that they can make, I messed that up. I'm sorry, it's the first night. He thinks that they can make some big-time noise this year.
Old Pflugrath over there has been around for the region quite some time, and he knows his X's and O's, and more than that. And speaking of a team that's got some X's and O's right now, TC Williams has more than that. They've got some talent. I want to let people know that TC Williams on January 24th will be playing Montrose Christian. That's a Saturday. Make time for that game. Montrose Christian, of course, is the program that recently put Kevin Durant, one of the premier college basketball players, into Texas right now. He is playing basketball for Texas and lighting it up. Looks like it might be a one-and-done type thing for Durant, who was also a McDonald's All-American last year from this area. So it will be public versus private school. That'll be an interesting game between what many people think will be a state title contender in TC Williams. Let's move on to the National District before we wrap this thing up and get a chance to talk about some of those National District teams. Wakefield, of course, up at the top there, Paul. What are we going to see out of Wakefield this year?
We see Wakefield. Then we got Mount Vernon next at 3-1. Edison at 2-1. Washington and Lee 2-2. Stewart 1-2. Falls Church 1-4, and Yorktown, according to these standings, has yet to play a game.
Coach Bobby Dobson over at Washington and Lee, they're at 2-2 right now. Bobby returns John Brown, a senior, Antonio Bethea, and Michael Grant, and Yosef Yohannes. That's a junior over there. They lost Josh McDaniel from last year, but you'll see the Wakefield boys are definitely going to be the program to watch over there. Of course, when you think of Wakefield boys, you think of Tony Bentley. All right, guys, we've got a chance to go through some of these teams. John, I want to hear a little bit about the Edison boys before we move out of the National District. What are the Edison boys going to be able to accomplish this year?
Edison's off to a good start at 2-1, but they have nine new varsity players, and that's a lot. They're going to rely big time on Manny Laera. He's their one big post player. Suffered an injury early in the season. They were a little worried of the severity. He should be back. It's when you have 9 new players. Head coach David Abello just said this might be one of those years where don't expect a lot. But again, same case as Lake Braddock. You have new players. They could filter in. You never know. But it could be a long year for Edison despite the quick start.
And I did mention Wakefield and Coach Tony Bentley over there in his 5th year with the Warriors. He's posted a 74-28 record in that time. A 15-8 finish for Wakefield last year. This is a team that won 15 games last year, only lost 2 impact players. They returned George Johnson, a senior guard, Andrew Allen, also a senior guard, Ty Beal, guess what, a senior guard, Reggie Williams, a junior guard, and center Patrick Hoper, a senior. So they're a team that Tony Bentley said is going to be welcoming back a wealth of experience. All right, guys, we've gone through nearly every team in the Northern region. And folks, if you want to get a chance to read more about these Northern Region teams, you can go to our website, www.connectionnewspapers.com. You see the Girl Power cover there. Of course, that was the cover story that we wrote at the Connection newspapers about girls basketball and how far it's come over the last couple of years. If you want to read more about every other program in the region, you can go onto our website, and there will be all there in PDF format as handbooks. It's a good coach's tool, I guess you could say, as well. All right, guys, so we did the same thing for the girls. We asked about dark horses. Before we wrap this thing up, let's talk about the dark horses for the boys. I've got my pick, but I'm going to hold off on that. Paul?
How long are you going to hold off? Until the end of the season, like football? Or?
I'll pick the winner right before they go on.
I don't know how much you can call them a dark horse, but I like Westfield. You see, you notice that Maurice Hubbard, the only starter back, you get a little nervous, but they, as Coach said, they have a rotating thing going where the juniors don't play. They wait till the seniors to leave, and then when the juniors go and come rising seniors, they get their playing time and they flourish. So you watch out for Westfield.
Well, Westfield, I think, obviously is going to be a team to contend with when you think about not just Hubbard. Everybody thinks about Hubbard. Mm-hmm. They got some other pieces there.
Josh Whitmer.
Whitmer, of course, is a guy that tore it up last year, too, in basketball. People think of football when they think of Josh Whitmer, but he's also quite the basketball player. John, I want to ask you about your sleeper pick for the boys in the Northern region.
I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go with the 1A and 1B. My 1A is going to be West Springfield. When you have an experienced and athletic team, that is tough to beat. They've been to the big games. They know what it takes to win. It's just putting it all together. My 1B, sorry, Coach Mitras, it's going to be Lake Braddock. They displayed such poise down the stretch in that Woodson game for such a young team. If they can build upon the success of that, have more confidence as the season grows on, that could be a dangerous, dangerous team to look out for.
All right, so my sleeper pick for the year is South Lakes, okay? I did mention Monty Smith earlier and A.J. Price. I forgot to mention J.P. DePasso, who's a 6'5" center for them. This is a guy that had some health issues last year, but he can get it done in the paint. He's going to be the X factor. I really believe that in Wendell Bird's last year at South Lakes, I think he came back this year knowing he had something special. We didn't even mention it. Think about that. We didn't even mention Julian Vaughn. I'm going to do it before we leave the show. But Julian Vaughn transferred out of Reston, out of South Lakes, and went to Oak Hill Academy, and everybody wanted to know, how will South Lakes respond? I have seen something in that team. I've seen something in that coaching staff, who's a great coaching staff. Daryl Branch, John Kemmerer, Irvin Green, Wendell Bird, and they're just a great unit that's been together for quite some time. I think a big test for South Lakes will be this Friday against their rival in Herndon. I think the winner of that game is a potential region championship. Will not write off Herndon just yet. I think they have a little growth to do without Scotty, but I think I've seen a lot out of them as well. Let's thank the people that make this show possible. Of course, we're talking about our underwriters. The FSN Game of the Week is made possible because of them. This week will be Chantilly versus Osborne, VHSL AAA Division VI State Championship. Paul, you were at that game. When is this game available?
This game will be available. Check your website for details.
The games are also available, though, Paul, on Cox
Oh,
Digital
yeah, of
Cable.
course.
Thank
Of course.
you.
No,
Thank you,
no, of
Rich.
course. It's Cox on Demand. This week also is the VHL State Semifinal, Varina versus Chantilly, taped on December 2nd, 06. He just threw it at me, sorry. It runs Saturday at 4:30 and Monday at 3:30 on Cox and Comcast Channel 10.
Very good, Paul.
Aye, thank
Guess
you.
what, John?
Oh,
On the web, you can visit us at www.fairfaxsportsnetwork, all one word, .com. Come often.
Hey, CCI Screen Printing, 703-978-0257. They're one of our underwriters. As is Quality Care Ford Service Center, which is servicing all makes and models at 703-383-6299. I want to thank you for joining us here on the Northern Region Hoops Preview Show. This will run all the way through the holiday period. We'll come back strong with some more coverage after the new year. Check your local listings and the Fairfax Sports Network website for details.
it's my bid.